Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. I'm going to cover a very important area, which is so typical of society, where there are great masters that are ignored, abused, persecuted, and ultimately forgotten. And this is really the way society works because it fits in with their criteria of never getting anywhere and discrediting what really is gnosis. If it's factual, if it's truth, well, it really has to be pooed upon and flushed. We recently lost a great internal martial artist. A great metaphysician has recently died in the last few months. And the last couple of years, we've also lost another one, as we are going to soon lose another guy who's in his 80s, and how much longer can he live? The average life expectancy, if you have any kind of decent medical care, is about 86. So we're going to talk about those people, but I always like to start off in a fun way. Think of something pending important in your life, and the mystic will answer you.
The Magnificent sometimes has answers to your stupid question. No, yes, maybe.
I think that's very profound. A fantastic little actual prophecy machine that I like to collect. The other very interesting thing here is we're talking about the Psycho board with Mystic Crystal from the late, was this the 1950s? What does it say here? Yeah, this goes way, way back. I don't even think it's in the early 50s. It started out in the 57, babes. This goes way back. A really cool tool that uses for the divination process, a very unique pendulum that I think is something that everybody out there should make. And that's kind of a pendulum on a stick like this. This gives you fantastic sensitivity, and you never see anything like this. So I think everyone can make something like this. It's really just a little rod with a ball on the end of it. I'm considering making these myself, but certainly is probably one of the best pendulums ever made, and something that you can make at home inexpensively. All you need is a little stick like this. You tie a string onto it, a ball at the end of it. This has a ball that has a centerpiece to it and a little ball underneath. And the sensitivity of this is amazing. And this was a little toy that sold for a few bucks in 1957. Okay, let's talk about, first of all, let's talk about Dr. John LaTourette, who has been a fixture in the alternative martial arts and general community for many, many years. Apparently, he was in practice, although not that popular. I don't hear that much about him, even though he only died about 4 or 5 months ago. I never really heard much about him. Certainly, his books were out there. I rediscovered him because somebody had sent me a bunch of his DVDs and CDs and his books. This was sent to me by a person who had these for many years and included that with other things that he sent to me. Other than that, I'm not sure I would have ever looked this guy up. I certainly saw his books. They have that comic book feel to them. The fastest punches, the amazing abilities you can get. And the problem with most of these people is, while their information has some validity, it's never really overly great. Very similar to Parker books of the 70s. Fun books, lots of interesting practical information. But ultimately, when you get down to it, it's very simplistic and not really very complete, even though some of the Parker books were quite excellent. But a lot of them were just trash. And of course, people were given more credit for these books than they should have been, like Robert Stone and other people who wrote books that just weren't all that great. But what is all that good? The point is, they all had practical information and their systems had some credibility. How well anything works is how well it works for you personally. And the only way you're going to know that is by trying it. At least the books in the 70s were pretty reasonably priced, around $3 to $4, even in hardcovers. And apparently there are hundreds of these, which I used to have a lot of these. And certainly worth the read and fun. But, 90% of the book, literally 90% of the book, were people's stories. I used this and I took a plane ride and lived while the other ones died in a crash. I cured myself. So this is what the books are 90% about. And then, of course, there's 20 pages, if you're lucky, of practical information, which, really is what most things get down to. You don't need 200 pages of practical information. It's just really a fallacy. This is why so many people love the line of books that Finbar used to produce, is that they were little booklets. They were, for the page count, were pretty expensive, but they got to the point without any filler. And of course, you can read 20 to 50 pages over and over again and not have a problem with it. I'm a big fan of this, and we'll be writing books like this in the near future, giving you 20 to 40 pages of hardcore information that you can read, reread, and reread without a bunch of filler nonsense, which publishers require. It was all about in the olden days, back in the day, that you were supposed to put page count out there because that meant that you meant something, that you had skill. It actually is the opposite. So you would put a lot of pages there, battle a lot to show how much you knew, and you really were just stating stuff that was not important. So Dr. John LaTourette certainly put out a huge amount of books, which you can find on Amazon, even on their Kindle program, and read a bunch of his stuff. And of course, he has some special books that are very expensive, costing hundreds of dollars, which he claims gives you a lot of secrets. And as I've stated in the past, I see nothing wrong with this. People spend $200 on a pair of running shoes or Sky Jordans or whatever it is. People go out and have a steak dinner, as I've recently watched two people do, and have a steak dinner with a la carte menus like potatoes, and they dropped $100. And that fed them for, a third of the day? So getting techniques that you can use all your life for $200 or $300 is too expensive? Yeah, that's right, Dr. George. That's how modern society works. You buy garbage you can't use, you'll get them dirty, you'll throw them away in a couple of months. But you look cool wearing them $500 sneakers, which you can get the same thing probably for like $35. But that's how society is. We all love it because we're all retards. That's how life works. So, people tend to complain about the cost of things. I hear this even on my products and on other people's products. For what? For manifesting in your life? What is that worth? Well, it's worth an awful lot, a lot more than you paid for it, which I find quite fascinating. If you're not paying hundreds of dollars for any product that you get, most likely it isn't worth a turd. If somebody has something of value, they're not going to sell it to you for $5, which is why most likely my products will be going up dramatically in the next coming years. You buy something, you should buy it for a premium, appreciate it, put it into use, and change your life for the better forever, and even pass it on to family. So that's really what life's all about. But you can buy a spade purse for $500 because that's important. Give it to your baby while they're living on the street in the back of your car. So these are the kind of things that everything is up, down, sideways, wrong is right, everything is backwards. Well, get used to it. That's the way the world is. What continues of this is the abuse of masters that are completely and totally ignored, particularly by the bottom feeder society. And you got to remember that wherever anything is going on, if there's two people show up for something, the third person will most likely be a paid informant. I know that sounds absurd, but that's the way the world is. So anybody who knows anything will be discredited, and particularly in the martial arts industry, which has nothing but bottom feeders, low-level scumbuckets as the majority of them. A bunch of ignorant, non-English speaking Asians who think they know something and want to say that they got their wisdom from gotcha goo in past lives. So it's passed down from the street man. Yeah, he was living in his own poo and urine, and I was able to get his secrets. Woo, cuckoo. This is what you run into. Um, this is the fact of life, and people that don't understand this or object to this type of speaking, well, you're just stupid. What should I worry about that? I have to deal with stupid people every single day. You're just one of them. My people get it. I hope you get it. But the bottom line is, let's start off with Guy Savali. This little Italian guy who I believe was it Ohio that he was based in or somewhere in that area, who for many years, he died, I think, was it 2 or 3 years or 5 years? He died a little while ago, who was contracted by the United States Special Forces. You know, most people give these guys lots of credit, and of course, they do have one thing going for them. You tend not to do stuff that doesn't work because the end result is you die. Kind of a bad side effect you want to avoid, dying. So they contacted him. He trained a bunch of special forces. It is on videotape of what he did from the special forces people themselves, which is quite impressive and totally ignored. Now, if you years ago, I used to read online the people that used to talk about him and the different bottom feeder boards and talk places. You know, the Facebook diarrhea mouth channels on martial arts, and all they did was criticize this guy who had proof, physical proof, videotape done by credible people, not his buddies, not the people in his dumb Joe, but actual special forces operators who are, regardless of anybody's personal opinion, are an elite of what they are. It's not easy to become a special forces operator. And these people spend their lives, and it takes a high level of psychotic maniac to become a special forces person. So this isn't the dumb Joe guy that's hanging out in the gym, shaving his chest and pumping iron and hitting a few walls. So the whole idea is that these are the kind of people out there. So this was proven. He put out an entire course. He told you how the system worked. And by the way, Guy Savali's courses are still online for sale. You can buy them, and they're reasonably priced the way they should be, $300 to $600 to get one of his courses. Quality information should be that. I'm assuming his daughter, a renowned dancer, is fulfilling those orders. It's hard to tell from websites that have been up there for years and years if they're still operating, but it appears it is. And certainly this guy has proven himself above any other person out there. He also was tested by scientists in a few institutions or universities, as far as I understand as well. So this guy is totally ignored. Nobody cares. Because he didn't have a lot because of his age and everything else. He wasn't a big shot shooting his mouth off. He didn't have a lot of YouTube videos. You know, he's one of those people that crested before the big media. I don't think he had anything on funny Facebook or all these other places. He did run a martial arts studio and a dance studio. His daughter was an accomplished dancer in, I believe she was in the movie Chicago, and also worked on Broadway. The beauty of Savali is it shows that this average Italian low middle class guy can go out there and do things that are amazing. And I think that's what's very impressive about the whole process. is that here couldn't be more of a low middle class guy living in the basically the Midwest who was able to achieve amazing things. And on top of that, the cherry on top of the ice cream is that he used to do it in a Christian belief system. He got his empowerment from Jesus. So I think that this really is a capper of all cappers. Now, are there any great interviews with him? Did somebody go there and spend hours following him, taping him, etc.? Well, of course not. He was real. And you're not going to find anybody who's real that anybody really investigates. You're going to find news people that come to you and embarrass you, who spend 12 hours with you, like they did with me, and put out 3 minutes of jokey tape to make you look like a fool. That's what's out there, because these people are all paid for and controlled by all of those people that want to discredit anybody that has individual empowerment. So do check him out, Guy Savali. We have a whole little video on him on this channel, so make sure you look for that and get further information. And as I said, Guy Savali's website is up and functioning, and it does appear that you can order products there. And he gives you some free information of how he gets his empowerment by climbing a stairs to grab the energy from Jesus. So I think it's very, very important. And here's another guy that is ignored and cannot be filmed. He's dead. He can't talk. He can't express anything. He's dead. What a loss to humanity. And there's many, many people out there. And let's follow up that just happened recently with Dr. John LaTourette, who, again, demonstrated in many videos his personal empowerment basically is ignored by anybody. No news teams came to him. He didn't seem to really care. A very odd egg, a nasty guy, a horrible egotist, and everything else that goes with it, but very prolific in making videos that are still available at his website. I think it's Speed Punching, etc. But you can find it there, and most of his videos are still available for you to buy. And of course, he makes you pay for them, including a whole bunch of books that you can get on Amazon and are available on Amazon monthly service as well. So you could read a lot of his books for a very low price. If you want to, getting, All Access Amazon. I always forget the name of the Kindle program there. He does have some very expensive books and expensive videos, and his son has taken over, who is keeping up to the tradition of having very expensive stuff. So he has what he claims are secrets that he's selling for $800 for I think there's 6 or 7 videos that will show you how to have incredible strength and other things. And as I said, if this stuff has validity, and it doesn't mean that it makes you a super being instantly, but if there's really a good basis to all that stuff, it's well worth it. Is it? I don't know. I'm going to be getting these particular videos and reviewing them in the future, and I will let you know about that. I have done a lot of videos on this channel talking about Dr. John LaTourette. So look those up. Very strange, obnoxious, rude personality person he is. But that doesn't mean that he did not have abilities and empowerment. You have to separate the message from the messenger, as life tends to be all about. But the bottom line is that he was never really filmed by an official group that went in to test him. I don't know if he would have been open to it or not. He wanted to make lots of money. He also didn't want to be questioned. He was very nasty in most everything he did, running his, particularly his martial arts schools, like it was some sort of Marine Corps grunt school. So certainly someone that I don't personally like from what I can see about him, but certainly his techniques are very interesting, and from what I can tell, certainly are effective, particularly in the martial arts area. But we can't contact him. He is dead. We can get a camera and film the ground they put him in. Maybe he will get some psychic messages. So the whole idea is that he is dead. He is in the ground. His son knows much of what he knew, but I don't think that anybody is going to film him either. So to say that all this stuff is nonsense when nobody has went out and tried to document it, I talked recently to a martial art person who tends to look into the many abuses by martial artists, particularly their pedophile, their abuse of students, etc., that this guy reported on, but he has no interest in really seeking truth. He doesn't want to go out and film people doing things of an extreme nature for his own personal problems. Maybe he's been gotten to, like most martial arts, this guy's probably a big giant coward, or has been bought off for about $50 a week, or everything that goes on with these kind of low-level bottom feeders. But here again, we have two people that are now dead who we can't get any film on. The third person, of course, is still alive, and that is George, who has discredited everything. George, who showed everybody, I always forget this guy's name, George Dillman, who was filmed by National Geographic and failed horribly. But that is not the first and last statement. This isn't God's word. This guy has to be gone back to by people who know about these type of energies and given a proper interview and given a proper filming of what he can do or not do. So all of this is not the last word. The problem in his horrific demonstration on National Geographic's documentary and his idiot follow-up after his failure has tainted the entire industry of internal martial arts with such a stink, because it was so horribly done by him, where he made these ridiculous excuses that it's almost done harm that cannot be fixed. But if he can actually prove his techniques with a real photographic team, he could get back some credibility, not only for internal martial arts, but for himself and his entire school, which, quite frankly, now is a laughing matter in the martial arts industry. There have been many others that had these abilities, particularly back in times when it was difficult to film. Andrei Pusharik was a person who went down and studied in Brazil, the rusty knife surgeon, Argos, who was able to do surgery on people, pull things out of people, and never was blood spilled, never was there a fear of infections or anything else. He would do these things virtually instantly right in front of you, claiming that some sort of spirit, oddly enough, an old German doctor, and I don't know if that was Argos's way of trying to give things credibility, as people think that anything German has credibility. Well, technically it's the contrary. But he claimed that, and that's who was guiding him. And he did this on Andrei Shaparik, who was actually a medical doctor himself. He went to medical school, graduated, and actually practiced medicine. So we're not talking about some chiropractor that fixes your spine and gives you a vitamin pill. Chiropractors have never been given a lot of credit, and I'm not sure they ever should be. Certainly, I believe the philosophy of it, and I've been to many chiropractors who basically made any situation I had worse and certainly didn't help it. So chiropractors are a big problem as well. So this is not a chiropractor. Andrei Shaparik was a famous psychic researcher, worked for the federal government, was an inventor of many medical tools, and also a medical doctor. And he went down to Brazil and spent a lot of time with this guy. And he even has said in interviews after that he regretted the fact that he didn't spend more time and document that situation. They took some, and you got to remember, this is the early 60s, and film cameras that never produced very good photographs. And if they really did, took a lot of skill and cost a lot of money. So they never documented this properly. But Andre documented himself. He had some sort of growth in his body underneath the skin, and this doctor was able to remove it without any blood or anything else. And Andre Pouchard kept this growth in a little jar on his desk. So it's unfortunate. And apparently, somebody else, when he was killed in a car accident, or should we say murdered in a car accident, somebody else was able to pick up after him. So there's something very strange going on here, particularly in Brazil. So again, here's a guy that was killed in a car accident, wasn't properly tested. Andre Pouchard was not properly interviewed and documented. People didn't follow him around, document all the things he saw, and everything else that went with it. So here's just, as we go down the line, anybody that's had any kind of decent skills or abilities hasn't been properly documented. This failure continues today with people like Jeffrey Mishlove, who puts on a bunch of talking heads and doesn't show any proof of anything. Mishlove himself is a very low-level thinker, and certainly, while he wants to leave these talking head verbal records for future generations, they're about as powerful as toilet paper. Maybe toilet paper is better because, at least you're leaving a stink on them. So this is what happens with these people, which you have to wonder. I have great doubts about Mishlove in general on so many areas because he seems to put on a lot of Satanist-type people, giving forums to the lowest of the lowest, and never, ever demonstrates anything, which is very typical of guys like him that are the 60 babies, the drug generation, that are now in their 70s, that have produced absolutely nothing but jibber-jabber nonsense. But the bottom line is we have people of great empowerment that are out there right now that can do things, do it on film, and none of this is ever documented. Just as, to bring up a name of many people who know, is Uri Geller, who people like to say somehow was discredited on the Johnny Carson show, a government plant that Carson was, with his deviant buddy, the James Randi, was not disproven. Uri Geller refused to be used as a puppet and tested where he was being set up. And to his credit, he knew he was being set up. On the other hand, there are photographs done by SRI, the Stanford Research Institute, showing Uri Geller doing all the amazing things that he claimed to do. Again, irrefutable proofs that you know nothing about, and that is swept under the carpet while we listen to dumb, idiot bunkers and the cesspool skeptics who are basically convicted felons. They're tricksters that are magicians. They are deviants, and all the people who are public debunkers are bottom feeders, just like most of the martial artist people you have out there as well. So we need to understand all of this stuff. And here we go again as time marches on and the people with great power are poo-pooed, never recorded, and are allowed to fall into oblivion, giving support to, there was really nothing to any of that stuff. You know that. You've had 50, 60 years of research. Where's the beef? Well, there's lots of beef there. There's been 150 years of research into all these areas, and not a single documentary has been done on things like Rife technology, radionics. No, there's been no documentaries done on it. There's a couple of tiny films that I'm aware of, little tiny interviews done with a few radionic people, and that was it. These have fallen to oblivion. There is really not a single documentary. There's nobody who has filmed somebody working with this technology and recording their proof. None of them has done it. And there are associations like the Radionic Association in the United Kingdom who have done absolutely nothing. The United States Psychotronic Association, the biggest joke of all organizations, that used to milk people for lots of money and had a meeting every year which they filmed and recorded very poorly, by the way, and then made a bunch of money off of these people. while ignoring the industry in general. That's what you have now, and all of these people tend to be influenced by nefarious forces, and we have to wonder what kind of stooges and how they are slaves and are corrupted to these organizations that control what they do, which make no sense. So we do have to understand all that. So it is really sad and something that we have to take note of, because one of the biggest criticisms of this entire area is the fact that we have no proof. There isn't anything. There certainly are literally tens of thousands of books, maybe hundreds of thousands of books written on phenomena of all different types that are out there. There's a huge amount of literature. But none of this literature is well read by most people or even known about in general. So it comes down to the fact that since this isn't part of common society, it has always been labeled as fraudulent nonsense by criminals and really laughable people who call themselves tricksters or theatrical magicians whose entire job is to make you look like a fool and take a lot of money out of your pocket. Go to a Las Vegas magic show and find out how well they rip you off in terms of their prices. They're doing tricks that are literally something you could buy for $5 or $6 at a magic store. So the whole idea is that this is what you're looking at. Are there proof? Are there people out there? Well, there are. But none of these people have been documented properly. Nobody's out there trying to do it, and the industry is infiltrated by spies, liars, and deviants out of the control industry. Basically your intelligence agencies that run the world have infiltrated all this stuff to destroy these kind of abilities, because they want to keep everybody dumb and stupid and under their control, and they highly fear people who are personally empowered beyond the normal. Keep that in mind. Until next time.